to remember that. Okay. Recording in progress. All right. Well, welcome everyone. So today I will be doing my workshop on Thrive. So we kind of went through, I know where my Ascent takes, see? And I'm the final workshop. So I'm Thrive. So what I did was I made a slideshow. We'll just have a conversation. And I would love, because it's probably going to be smaller, to hear from you and just kind of your input and experience as we go through the information. And so I'll just get as far as I can, but really I'm talking about how we can thrive in a world that's really driven by diet culture. And if that's something that either sounds familiar to you or it sounds totally like, I don't know what you're talking about, then we're going to go over it. So let me share my screen with you and you guys tell me all if you can see it just fine. Oh, hold on. I have not shared a slideshow before, so you guys get to be my no, sorry, I'm testing this out on you all. I probably should have tried this before we did this, huh?
Don't get nervous.
I'm not.
Good.
But I don't know how to share my what I want to show you.
You share your screen, I think.
Well, I am, but
Right.
when it pops up, I don't know how to pick. I don't know what I'm picking.
What's your choices?
Mm,
Oh yeah, share screen.
okay, hold on. Let's start over. Okay, so share screen. Have you shared a slideshow before, Linz?
No, I haven't. I've been meaning to ask Sherry how that went, how that worked.
Yeah, that would have been good for me probably.
What do you have? What pops up when you have share screen?
Well, then it just gives me different options like desktop, Google Chrome.
Maybe desktop. Where do you have the slideshow?
Well, it's on like Google Drives. Oh, geesh. Maybe I do this next Sunday. Oh, I don't know. I guess we could just have a conversation and I can just talk about it. We don't have to have a slideshow. It is helpful, but.
No, and I really wanted, it sounded so interesting.
Oh, it is interesting. I'm
But
just.
I understand
Do you
where
have your slideshow pulled up in the background?
I do. It's like right next, like you guys, I have one screen. So you guys are right here and then it's right here next to me. I just don't know how to like.
Did you try desktop?
Present to a meeting. Oh,
present to a meeting. Wouldn't that be it?
I did. I said desktop.
Oh,
And it didn't show.
Oh my gosh, you guys. It
you
wants me
make
to like
me-
grant access. Why?
because we don't have access to
Oh
it.
yeah, we don't have access.
You have to grant us to see it.
But I don't know what to pick. Zoom? I can't believe I'm recording this and this is going like this. I apologize.
Don't,
I should have.
because you're.
Well,
No,
the
it's
thing
all
is, I
good.
share my screen, like my music and stuff all the time. So I'm like, how hard can this be? Right?
If you can make me co-host, I can help maybe
Mm.
because I can't.
Oh,
do
okay.
anything.
Is she a co-host?
No, but I
Shut-
could make her one.
Oh,
Okay, Lindsay, let me find you. Oh, it'll only let me make you the host.
Oh,
That's
Your hus-
okay.
Or is he at work?
My husband. Oh, I don't think he knows how to do this. He's here, but
Oh.
you know,
What are you eating?
me.
waffles.
Oh,
Sorry.
Oh,
I'm
waffles?
eating.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
just chat because this is going to be, I'm wasting everybody's time by trying to figure this out. So I'll just go through it. It's okay. Maybe what I'll do is I'll like send everyone the slideshow after and then people can just look at it because especially with only this many people, it's not really a huge deal as much.
Should we reschedule?
I don't know. What do you think, Linz? Leave
Nah.
it? Leave it, just do it. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So anyways, I was talking about diet culture. And so I don't know, has anyone heard of that before? Does that ring a bell for anybody?
Diet culture.
Yes. Okay. And so what do you think of when you hear that word? Like what pops up?
Well, I don't know now, maybe it's my age, but used to, when I was about your age, everybody was on a diet. It was the thing, you had to be thin and I mean, we're talking thin, size 5, 6, or you were fat. And
Mhm.
I look at the pictures of myself when I thought I was fat, and I think, holy moly, I was really thin then, but I didn't think so. So that's what I think of diet culture is,
Mhm.
you know, that.
Yeah. Diets have been around for a really long time, and we'll actually go over that. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. If anyone else wants to share kind of what your thoughts are when that word pops up, you definitely can.
Well, I think of, for some reason, my brain goes to like the 80s with Jane Fonda and like the zero fat, like low fat, zero fat craze. That's what I think of.
That's what I was talking about, the 80s. You know, when I was young in the 80s. Nobody's
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah, I just think of like fads. I don't know, like Slim Fast for like 2 meals a day. I mean, like just the drinks that people would do for a while. I remember my mom did, and
Yeah.
Or paleo is the
yeah.
newest one.
Yeah. So absolutely all of those things. And it's funny because even Fran like recalls from when she was younger, and it's still happening. It looks different because times change and we learn and we go, oh, maybe low fat wasn't so good for us. But there's always something, and those kids are loud, probably always will be. Because our world is just really focused on it's a thin focused world on what they believe that we should look like. But technically, so the term has been coined, and one of my favorite authors is Christy Harrison, and I actually have her book right here. It's called Anti-Diet, and really where dieting came from, how it harms our health, what true health can look like, and how we can break free from it, which is what we're going to address today. And there's so much information. So we're going to keep it pretty simple. And then if you have any other questions, but for today, we just are going to kind of hit those basics, and then I would love to expand on some of it at some point, but it's pretty involved. So I just want to read to you. So she ended up kind of taking what diet culture means and giving it a real definition. So I'm just going to read that to you. So it says, diet culture is a system of beliefs that equates thinness, muscularity, and a particular body shape with health and moral virtue, promotes weight loss and body reshaping as a means of attaining higher status, demonizes certain ways of eating while elevating others, and oppresses people who don't match its supposed picture of health. So that's pretty involved, but I would say that's absolutely accurate, right? Like if you you should look this way. If you look this way, you are healthy, no matter what it took maybe to get there. And if you don't look that way, there's really a big stigma attached to that, which is really unfortunate because you can't tell the health of someone just by the way that they look.
But
yes, go ahead.
But seems like it used to be you had to be bone thin, but now it seems like the more athletic body is in.
Mm-hmm.
Definition of muscles,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a bigger butt.
It's true. It's true. It does change. And I would say, hopefully we're getting in a better direction of like saying, you know, you see more ads of like all bodies can be beautiful and things like that. So I think it's getting better. But I think it still is going to be there. And I think, you know, also wellness can be masqueraded as like some things that are really technically disordered eating behaviors can be advertised as healthy. So we'll go over that a little bit too. But yeah, definitely like counting calories, which is one reason I love VFit, because they really avoid all of this that cannot be promoting of health. So counting calories, daily weigh-ins on your scale, measuring food, checking your body composition, like fat versus lean muscle. You know, if there's body shaming involved of what doesn't look good. Let's see. People might miss out on experiences and connection because they're so wrapped up in diet culture and eating and looking a certain way that they avoid time with their loved ones. And really just having really obsessive thoughts about food, weight, just in their bodies in general, because it's so, it's so involved, it's around us everywhere, that people can really get this like microscope on this one part of health that really, truly, there's so much more involved. So learning to kind of let that go to have a better picture of health. Okay, so, oh gosh, I wish I had these. I don't know. I've got some images. I wish I could share you with these, but if you kind of think of any of those dieting images that you've seen for different programs, like what it shows you. And the images I have here today is like a heavier woman, which it's fine. It's okay to use those terms as like heavier or larger body or bigger body, or even to say fat. It's just a word. It's not meant to like put anybody down. It's just a word. And we've kind of given it this negative connotation. And, she's standing here and she's holding a scale and she has a really, really sad face. Like she just looks so sad. And then there's someone else next to her in this thin body eating an apple, holding a scale, and she's just happy as ever. And you'll start to notice those things. Like it shows a picture of people who are thin and they are happy, right? They equate those two things with each other. Thin is happy and healthy. Fat, overweight is not. And that is just what we've all been like taught to believe, that that's the case. All right. So Fran kind of brought up some good information, but dieting dates back to like the 1800s. It has a long history, but at some point it came around like in the 1920s, where fatness was really considered a lack of willpower. There was a lot of anti-fat sentiments. There was diet books. It's in pop culture, the medical community. And people were using really harmful methods to try to lose weight. Like think of smoking, diet pills, bariatric surgery, really, really restrictive diets, all these things just so that they could lose weight. And none of that sounds healthy. Like if we know that now, so that's good. We're getting there. In the late 90s, they ended up changing the BMI cutoff. So the BMI, I think all of you are probably aware with the BMI chart. It's just, they put us in this category to say if you're underweight, normal, overweight, obese. But that doesn't also tell us anything about our health. It's just our weight for our height ratio. It says nothing else about you. And they even changed those BMI cutoffs. So overnight, like 30 million people became obese when the day before they were just technically overweight. I know. And then in 2013, they actually labeled obesity as a disease. So now all of a sudden, if you weigh a certain amount of weight, you have a disease. They know nothing about you again. And I'm not saying that you couldn't have, but I know plenty of people who are not obese who also who are not healthy. So you just have to put that out there, that your weight doesn't tell you anything about your actual health. Currently, we have all those lifestyle programs. We do have paleo, Whole30, all these kind of wellness diets that sound healthy, but again, they can be really restrictive. And so even like to the extreme of like clean eating, like that has become such a term. So what does it mean if you're clean eating? Or what if you don't eat that way? Now you eat dirty, like it's just got such a bad connotation to it. So trying to get away for some of these things. And then we've got our media. So that's part of diet culture that just shows you, there's a lot of pressure for women, especially men too, but women especially, to fit this ideal that's pretty unattainable for most people. You're pretty much born the way that you're going to be, and you have this set point in your body. Look at your genetics, your family. What do they look like? And typically it's not the images that we see in the media. So unfortunately, we're all led to believe that we should look a certain way, and that's pretty difficult to do for many people. I had some facts. By age 6, half of girls are already worried about being too fat. Age 6, you guys. I know. By 11, I know. I don't like reading some of these things. It's like heartbreaking. By age 11, 2/3 of girls are worried about being too fat. By adolescence, almost all girls will have engaged in some sort of weight control behavior by adolescence.
My daughter-in-law, when my oldest was a teenager, my oldest granddaughter, my daughter-in-law talked incessantly about dieting. and my granddaughter became anorexic.
Oh,
And when she was in counseling at UCLA, they told us that her mother was anorexic because her mother talked about dieting so much. So I was wondering, what do you do since you have two daughters and you're like in perfect body? So what do you talk to them about? What do you say? Because I don't think yours is just natural, maybe. I mean, except you work out a lot, but
I honestly think a lot of it probably is natural, to be honest. I was adopted, so I've never seen my like biological parents, but I can pretty much assume, because I don't diet at all. Like I just eat food that I like. And I mean, I like to eat healthy because I feel good, but I don't have any sort of strict food rules or anything. And I've tried to do that with my daughters. So we like don't talk about calories or any foods that are off limits. We don't talk about weight. Because it's definitely generational. Like if you ask most girls, like my roommate in college, she's still one of my best friends, but her mom would always talk about dieting and how she felt fat and all these things. And her mom did that. And so I've just seen how it affects my friends whose moms did that. And so my husband and I are both very careful about just like eat food that makes you feel good. Like I let my kids have whatever they want. And I just tell them to kind of check in with themselves. Like, you can definitely have that cookie, but if it's this big and you eat it all, you may not feel your best, but you can have it. And they know that all types of body shapes, hi, Mary, all types of people just look different in their bodies. I will say sort of unfortunately, like I think, there is thin privilege. So women or people who are just built thin, like you automatically already have more privilege than others who are in bigger bodies. And so I think that part's more difficult because you don't really get to experience what people in larger bodies feel, and I think I definitely fall in that category. I mean, I do exercise and eat well, but I know that that's only a small percentage of how I'm built. I just know that. Does that make sense, Fran?
No, perfectly. I just wondered, because I assume that you didn't talk about dieting or with your girls, and they're nice sizes. They're not real thin, and they're not over.
I mean, they are, but they are thin. Again, if you you can look at children. They already have so many different shapes as children, and that's just how we're meant. That's how we're meant to be. And so when we do, I try. My family, my mom and my dad still like to talk about like Weight Watchers or calories. And I need to actually have a conversation with them to please not do that and just keep that talk to themselves. Because they'll say something and Sophie was like, what's he talking about? I'm just like, we don't need this talk around them. They'll get plenty of it as they get older. So I'm trying to protect them for now. Okay. Hi, Mary. So I was supposed to have a slideshow, but I could not get it to work. So we're just we're kind of having a conversation today. So if anytime you want to unmute or just talk, we're kind of doing it that way. Okay. So now we're going to talk about why it doesn't work. It does work, but very temporarily, right? If your goal is to lose weight and you cut calories or you do A, B, or C, some sort of restrictive behavior, it will work, but for a very, very short period of time. And the long-term effects are really not worth it. So I just want to give you a little bit of facts here. So 90 to 95% of people regain up to 2/3 of the weight that they lost within 1 year, and almost all of it within 5 years. So you can kind of bet that if you were to go on a diet, your lowest weight loss is going to be at 6 months. And then after that, it's pretty much just going to be weight regain. So if you were to think of anything else that you knew, like, this is going to fail 95%, I'm going to go for it anyway. Like we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't buy the product. We probably wouldn't try the program. And yet we try. And I say we as just a society, over and over and over to try and lose weight to fit into this ideal, which is really sad. So a number of studies have shown that dieting consistently predicted future weight gain, regardless of a person's body size when they first started out. So even if you started out and you wanted to just lose 5 pounds, you're almost guaranteed that there will be some future weight gain there. Okay, let's see. So I just want you to kind of think about your families. We all have a set point range. Like our body is really, depending on different points of our life too, right? We're not always going to be the same size. We're not meant to be like that. But we do have a set point range that varies throughout our life. And that the only reason that would really change is the more that you try to diet, that range tends to go up and up and up. And that's really just your body's mechanism of trying to protect you. Like every time you diet and you don't give yourself enough fuel, or you exercise too much, or whatever it is, your body can't tell the difference between a short temporary diet and like a famine. So every time it's like, I'm going to slow my metabolism down. I'm going to do all these things to preserve the energy that you do have. And let's see. Okay. So when you think about your family, like what does your family look like? You know, are they more muscular? Are they shorter? Are they heavier? Are they thin? And that's probably very likely what you might be like too. About 70% of how we are built is based on, hi, Christina, can be dictated by our genes, up to 70%. So that's a pretty good percentage, right? And now we're going to try to fight that, these really strong genes that also gave us our hair and our eye color and all these other really beautiful things about us. And then we want to change this one thing. Now, our brain has a set of biological responses that change to try to really help us to gain weight back when we want to lose it. So it reduces our fullness hormones. It increases our hunger hormones. It really wants us to lower our energy output, our reduced activity. It messes with our thyroid and our sympathetic nervous system, all which control our metabolism. So it's very smart. So it's not just a lack of willpower. Something's not just going on. Our body is really programmed to help us maintain this range that is best for our bodies. Okay. And I want to say this right now. If you have dieted before and you're going, oh my gosh, I totally ruined myself. I can't believe I did that. Don't worry. It's never too late. You're not broken. Your body's not broken. It's just your body's way of trying to protect you. And you can always change whatever you're doing, right? You can always go back to a better way of eating and movement that's healthy for you. And anytime, if anyone wants to ask anything or has input, please feel free. All right. So what about that small percentage of people that keeps weight off? You're probably thinking of, I don't know, it could be yourself or someone that you know that's like, they kept off 100 pounds forever. They might have. There's going to be some people that it does work for, but you really have to look at the expense of what? Like, are they still tracking calories? Are they still weighing themselves every day? Do they have crazy workout routines? Are they enjoying life in general? And maybe someone just changed their habits. Maybe they just had terrible habits that had nothing to do with even their food. Maybe they were sleeping terribly. They had a lot of stress. There could be so many other things going on that when they changed it, their weight naturally, they may have lost weight naturally, and now that's where they're able to maintain it. But for the most part, people who set out for intentional weight loss, they do gain their weight back.
Did you say plus some? Or
it can be plus some, yes. Mm-hmm. Typically, like the more times that you've done it, the more weight you can regain than when you started. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, now what about, all the studies or the information that we hear that higher weight has poor health outcomes, right? You always hear that obesity causes this, it causes this, it causes this. Now, that's one of those situations that there might be a correlation between higher weight and certain health outcomes, but you can't necessarily say that that's what causes it. So there's other things in life that is that same thing, right? Like you can't account for every measure of that person's life. So saying that just their weight caused diabetes isn't necessarily true. In fact, diabetes, usually a weight gain is an after effect. They just may not have noticed. That's just a symptom. So unless you can control for every factor, we can't really blame obesity for causing health problems. And if you look at it, actually, earlier, Christina and Mary were kind of recalling all the diets that have happened that our parents did or our grandparents did, or Slim Fast or whatever. And they've been around for a long time. But the so-called like obesity epidemic, it really tracks nicely with the continued growth of the diet industry. So there's something that's going on here. There's actually a correlation. So people are saying diets work. They actually don't. They gain weight back. But the more people diet, the higher the weight. So those two really can actually go together. That pressure to shrink our bodies, we have not seen anything really successful work, right? They just keep saying everyone's getting heavier. So something isn't working. And yet diets are still promoted all the time. Okay, what's next? All right. Have any of you heard of the weight stigma? Is that a term that you've heard of? Anyone? No? Yes, maybe. No. Okay. So weight stigma. Oops. Let's see. I'm trying to go. Okay. So weight stigma or weight bias, that is something that someone feels like discriminated against because of their size. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a certain size. It could just be a way that you feel, right? Because some people, it kind of goes along with body image. You may feel that you're very heavy, even if you're technically in a normal range. So if you feel that weight stigma, that alone they have shown that alone can be a predictor of poor health outcomes, just that feeling alone of the weight stigma. So let's see, research shows that experiencing weight stigma, also known as weight bias, weight-based discrimination, fat phobia, or all the stereotypes that are associated with being heavier leads to poor health outcomes such as diabetes or heart disease. And this is regardless of body size, like I said before. It can also lead to disordered eating, emotional distress, negative body image, low self-esteem, and depression. Now, having all of that, weight stigma can come from feeling it from your doctor. Like I know people who are in heavier bodies that don't want to go to the doctor because they just know they're going to say, oh, you need to lose weight. Like that's their answer without even looking into anything else. And so they'll avoid going to the doctor, right? If they have something going on. And then they may not even get the test that they need ran because the doctor assumed that they just needed to lose weight. And having this stress on the body alone can cause chronic disease. So it's been shown that stigma is actually worse for your health than the food that you eat. So feeling that pressure, having all of that stress coming from either people just out in society or your teacher, your job, or on yourself, that and body image is a much stronger predictor for your health than your actual body size or the food that you eat. So a lot of these motivating messages out there, and I'm not talking about like VFit when we're like, move your body. Like those are positive messages, right? No one's saying lose weight. You need to move so you burn calories. Those are the wrong messages. But all these messages that are out there that have tried to promote weight loss, they really have the opposite effect. It hasn't been shown that people all of a sudden are moving more and eating healthier. It really typically makes people feel worse. Unfortunately. And as I said before, people avoid medical care. They avoid going to the gym. They avoid working out altogether because they don't want people to see them. They don't feel comfortable. Maybe they're prescribed weight loss instead of the necessary treatment that they should have had in the first place. Maybe they go on these diets and now they're weight cycling and they're yo-yoing up and down, which that also has been shown, that weight cycling of dropping a few pounds, going up more pounds, dropping a few pounds is associated with higher cardiovascular disease and higher mortality, independent of whatever weight you started at. You could be at a healthy BMI and still that weight up and down. Someone that I know, someone that I know has dieted for a very long time. And at some point, she's still on a strict diet. She eats well. And then she came up with like having pre-diabetes. And that's just her body's response of dieting for so many years. There's nothing I could have recommended to her to change her diet. I couldn't recommend any more exercise. My recommendation was to stop dieting. And she looked at me like I was crazy. But really the yo-yo that I've seen over and over and all the things that she's tried over and over has really harmed her health overall. And so now this is the position she's in, unfortunately.
Has did she, when she was dieting, was she following a diet? Or was she?
She's done Weight Watchers. So I don't know exactly what, which is supposed to be a little bit more inclusive of all foods, but
Right. They're obsessive. Weight Watchers, I
Point.
find with my friends are obsessive. And when you're eating, they'll tell you how many points you're all eating.
Yeah.
The points is what.
and I'm not trying to put anything down. I know
No,
some
no.
people feel very good with like Weight Watchers, like they feel like that's comfortable for them. But again, you're using a program to tell you how to eat as opposed to just learning how to eat and listen to your body on your own. Like for some reason, Weight Watchers knows what you should eat and you don't, even though you're the expert of you. You know how much you can eat, but we lose touch with a lot of those cues. Just as we get older and we do start dieting, or we hear that we shouldn't eat A, B, or C, and so they feel good having that like safety net of, I know I can eat these foods in the green, I can't eat these foods in the red, and they, start to rely on that. But, we learn to lose that trust with ourselves, to make our own decisions about food, unfortunately. And then ultimately, if the dieting doesn't work, or we stop dieting, or we gain the weight, now all of a sudden we feel like failures and disappointments and shame around that. And so it really doesn't set us up for any type of success at all. Okay, we've covered what diet culture is. Dieting doesn't work. And then, so what do we do? What if you're at that point where you're like, well, where do I go from now? It can be a long process to trying to heal this. But the first thing you can do is just kind of educate yourselves on, you can get mad at just kind of diet culture in general, that we've been made to believe that dieting and losing weight is going to solve all our problems and we're going to be happy. And now I'm healthy all the time. And so we've been kind of fed this lie that that's what's going to happen, without knowing any of the other side effects that can come along with that. So, you can start by just getting angry at diet culture, not at yourself. I think that's where we turn to first, is like, I'm a failure. I can't believe I didn't do this. I have no willpower. What's wrong with me? And it's not your fault. And I'm saying you, I don't know if anyone has done this, but it's not the person's fault, whoever, has done this. It's what you've been made to believe. You've been given these promises that if you do this, it's going to fix everything. And it's okay to be sad and to grieve. You might felt like, oh, I lost years of my life, or I spent all this time, all this money. So much of my mind has been given to eating a certain way. So it's okay to be sad and to grieve about it for a while too. It can also be really good to just read and educate yourself and share what you've learned. Some people aren't going to be ready to hear it, especially people who are still wrapped up in it. They might not be ready for the information, but some really are. Or if they say, oh, I'm doing this latest diet, or you can have a nice conversation about it. And some people aren't. You may not want to engage in that, but maybe. And then just having a lot of self-compassion for yourself, acknowledging your feelings without judgment, being really kind and caring towards yourself. Even if there's something that you want to change. We were kind of talking about thin privilege earlier. I don't know if you two had come in, but people who are in thinner bodies, they can't always relate to what it might feel like to be heavier and to have that desire to lose weight or to look a certain way. So it's okay to acknowledge that, hey, I still want to change this, but I'm going to learn to accept myself for just how I am. And then there's things that you can do to help with that. All human beings struggle and feel inadequate sometimes. So just giving yourself that compassion there. Another thing you can do is learning to set boundaries. So I was saying earlier, I need to have this conversation with my own parents actually about, we're not going to have diet talk around me or my family or my kids. Or if your friends start to do that, find a way to either talk to them about it, or just, you can walk away from a conversation. You don't have to engage. You don't have to put people down or stop it, but you can choose not to talk about it. Learning to stop commenting about body size. So whether that's your own body in front of people or other people's bodies, that really doesn't need to be a topic. Like, why do we do that? Why is this so interesting to everybody? Right? Like, it's just someone's body. I'm trying to understand why all of a sudden people get to make those comments. You can start to learn intuitive eating, and that's something that I work on with people, of learning how to get the body's like innate ability again to learn and to tune into why we eat, and our hunger and our fullness, and what is satisfying to us mentally, physically, emotionally. Just giving yourself full permission to eat again with no food rules. And just treating yourself as you would a loved one. So if you're saying some unkind words to yourself, stop yourself right there. Would I say this to anybody else that I love? My child, my husband, my friend? Probably not. So don't say it to yourself, right? And just give yourself a lot of compassion for however long it takes. Okay, I think if this stops, we might have to log back in, because it just gave me a warning that it was going to cut off.
Yeah, and it says less than a minute.
I know.
It was counting down 10 minutes. It was
Yeah, which I didn't notice.
You only have 30 minutes or 40?
I think it only gives us 40. We can log back in, but I'm sorry if that's what we have to do, because I do want to make sure we have a closing. We're close, but hi, Lisa. So we can log back in real quick. Sorry. And then, however long it takes to recover. Some people, once they realize what dieting does, they're like, I'm done with this. And they find a road to healing quicker. And the process takes a while. And just no shaming yourself. Evidence shows shaming does not work positively in the long run. Like if you're hard on yourself and you have shame, we're